Alfie Mare then will start on pole position from Leo Livings, with James Fabricius and Fraser Anderson on row 2. Logan Rolfe and Sebastian Clark are on row number 3. Then row 4 we'll see George Schweier and Arthur Farrer, with Marley Fisher and Buddy Hugo rounding out your top 10. Jos Huschka and Alice Fairclough are on row number 6. Then it's going to be Caden Simpson and Fabian Gandhock, Lewis Herbertson and Soreen Gallagher, with Morgan Weston and Elliot Dimelo on row number 9. Field then, we're just waiting for them to get themselves out. There's still a bit of a hive of activity going on down there, so we could well have a few more minutes for our before we get Micromax out. It still looks quite busy, although all the carts are on the ground, so we could have them out a little bit before we expected. But until then, I'm just going to keep plugging some results into spreadsheets for Micromax. It's been a really tight championship that, depending on which circuit that we've been to, has seen a real swing for our drivers into each direction, depending on whether the track has suited the driver. So this one's been a really tight championship in Micromax. We've seen a few drivers dip in as well to try their luck in this championship as guest drivers. We've seen drivers that have come on throughout the season. Alfie Mare, who goes off pole position, certainly one of those. At the last 2 rounds, he's marked his arrival at the front. George Schweier as well, with a superb effort at Landau that he managed to carry on. He's not had the best of weekends this weekend. A couple of excursions in the early part of this race weekend in heat number 2 has dropped him a little bit further down the order than what he'd have been hoping for. Although did start the day in the dry yesterday with a superb P3, although Alfie Mare had driven off into the distance and left the drivers behind to battle it out between themselves. So this one, not a championship that I don't think can be wrapped up here this weekend, and drivers at the front are in a position where, whilst they've come to the fore towards the end of the season, it was all a little too late for some of our drivers. So Alfie Mare going off pole position after good effort in the championship, where he really broke out at Fulbeck with a great weekend, although the final didn't quite go to plan for him, but did take 2 heat victories throughout the day, and then a retirement, unfortunately. Finally, his rear bumper came out of its mounting point, so he was then ordered back into the pit lane under a mechanical flag, but picked up the victory at round number 1 as well at Warden Law. But round number 2 and round 3 really didn't go in his way at all, unfortunately. So difficult season for Alfie Mare so far, but when he's on song, he is on song. So just waiting then here for our Micromax runners to make their way out onto the track. So Micromax are about to make their way out. I've just banged on the commentary box window and see whether I can get somebody in just to help me fill some of this air at the moment. I'm joined by team boss of BSR, Bradley Shepherd. Bradley, you've got one of your drivers out in this one, at least one, running towards the front, James Fabricius, but busy weekend as always for yourself. You've got drivers in Honda, you've got drivers in Micro, you've got driver in Mini, you've got driver in Junior this weekend as well. Yep. Really busy in the BSR awning, but talk us through this one. You've got James Fabricius, Oliver Fabricius coming up as well. I believe you're a little bit nervous for that one because there's a championship at stake here today.
I am indeed. You know, it's been a very hard year. You know, I think people don't always see how much effort goes into it, and you know, if Ollie can win this championship today, it'll mean the world to me and the team. Obviously, James coming up now. Just need to maintain some solid points and try and go from there to Wilton Mill.
So, as a team, just talk us through it. There's a lot of teams in this championship, but what goes in behind the scenes before we even turn up here at a race weekend?
You know, it's all the good stuff that goes in behind the scenes. You know, you have to re-watch all the races. You know, we have video calls of our drivers before each meeting to go through the lines, what they need to do, and you know, it's just all the effort, getting to the track, setting up. You know, everything that goes in behind the scenes is massive compared to what actually happens at the track.
So, before they go out like this, it's a rolling start. Do you talk to your driver about what might happen, or do you just generally, if you make a plan, generally it goes out the window in the first 5 seconds, but generally do you have a little bit of a chat about it, or do you just let them drive on instinct?
We never really plan. You know, there's always, especially in conditions like this, you want to try and get across at the start. You know, a good start in the wet is always important. However, you can't really plan for every situation possible, so we just have to let the driver do their thing, tell them what to do from the sidelines, and you know, we can see more than them throughout a race, so it's important we do that.
Into the tram lines we go then for the start of this final in Micromax. In they go through over the acceleration line. It looks like we've got a roll round, so we've got Brad for another couple of seconds. It looked like the timing's going down on the top left corner, although that's now being held. It looked like there's a few drivers showing the roll round, and there is indeed the green flag with the yellow chevron, so we've got a roll round there. Don't think they were quite in the tram lines, and the pace did look quite quick on the way in there, Brad.
They did indeed. You know, I think they all broke tram lines as well, so it was lucky that was a false start. I think there might have been a couple of penalties otherwise, but yeah, we'll see what happens on this other one.
It is important though, isn't it, that they maintain that sort of slow rolling pace on that rolling up lap and only accelerate where they need to, because if not, they're going to be barrelling into that first corner 3 and 4 wide on an opening lap full of adrenaline. So it is important that they follow the rules correctly when they roll in on the opening lap.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you've got to do it right. It's different at every track with the tram lines, so yeah, you've just got to make sure you're on it at the start. Yeah,
drivers being told to slow down there by our marshal. Into the tram lines they go then, and for a third time we will have a roll round. Now, this is very important because as we saw in juniors at Landau, you only get so many bites of the cherry before the race director will throw the red flag and then rejig and effectively Mario Kart style pick the two up off the front and dump them towards the back. So now they're going to have to be very, very careful on this next rolling start. Now, somewhat selfishly, your driver goes off row 2. You're hoping for one here, aren't you?
No comment on that one.
So they're going to roll round, obviously. Well, stick with me for the opening lap, then I'm going to let you go because you've got a driver in this and you've got some others to prep as well. I don't want to take too much of your time up. You, along with a few other people here, are very, very busy this weekend. One thing I'm looking at is the track. Are you any of your drivers considering slicks? Because it does look quite dry with the exception of the horseshoe. Yeah, anybody looking to throw a surprise?
The grid was it was very chaos. You know, I think everyone is on wets now, so everyone's going to be on similar.
Yeah, it does look like it's starting to rain though once again. Into the tram lines we come then this time. Are we going to be away and racing? It looks like we are. And the Micromax final here from round number 5 at Clay Pigeon is underway. It's a good start from Fabricius off the second row. He is up into second place behind Alfie Mayer, who led the field over the line at the start of this race. Run now then down towards the hairpin on the opening lap. Looks like the field is nicely settled with the exception of one driver taking a dive down the inside there in the green helmet. We'll pick up who that is in a few moments' time, although there's a few of them look like they got a little bit balked on exit. Setup-wise here, Brad, have you gone for wet tyres with a pretty much a dry setup? You might as well tell us all now because we've started the race. Nobody can change anything.
Yeah, we've gone pretty much wet setup, a couple of teeth up on the gearing, and just hope for the best from there, really.
Well, that's pretty much all it is in conditions like this, isn't it? And it's how quickly that track dries. Over the line for the first time, it's Mayer from Fabricius and Sebastian Clark. Logan Rolfe and George Swire round out the top 5. Livings, Anderson, Farah, Fisher and Gantok. And there's a warning for Sebastian Clark in 3rd place. He's made a good start on the opening lap, but that's going to now see him with running the line now towards the end of this race, picking up that warning so early on. He's already starting to defend off Logan Rolfe and George Swire as the field make their way round the horseshoe for the second time. Brad, absolute pleasure having you in the comm box, mate. Really appreciate you coming in at short notice and having a little chat with us here on Alpha Live.
Thanks, Dave.
Alfie Mayer then continues to lead from James Fabricius. Sebastian Clark, your top three, as Alfie Mayer plugs in the fastest lap, immediately eclipsed by Sebastian Clark in third place as he closes in. He's dragging George Schweier with him as well. You can see there now a full dry line through the single file corners at the S's. The horseshoe, not so much so, mainly because all the drivers are taking very, very differing lines through that corner. You can see them through there now. It's starting to dry up, although I get the feeling that juniors might be the first ones that start plucking some slicks. We've got nobody in the holding area at the moment from junior Rotax, which is the next one. But certainly if there's people towards the tail end of the field that might want to spring a surprise, there may well be a couple of drivers going out on slick tyres. The reason that there's nobody in that holding area is nobody wants to be the first one in. I'm looking out the window, there's a few karts already on wet tyres. Wonder how many people are running off to get some slicks, because this track's going to dry up, I get the feeling here, and if you're at the tail end of the field, there's going to be absolutely nothing to stop you springing a bit of a surprise. It's only the second half of the horseshoe now that's starting to, that's still wet. But Alfie Mayer, who, when he's been at the front so far this weekend, has pulled away and disappeared into the distance, is being kept honest by about half of the Micro Max field. Fabricius, Clark, Schweier, Rolf, Anderson, all there as well as they make their way through. Schweier to the inside of Sebastian Clark. Through he goes. Logan Rolf in fifth place with the fastest lap of the race so far. 43.1. That'll be down into the 42s before the end of this one, I am sure of it. We're pretty much down to slick times, with the exception of a few corners, as Fabricius tries to move down the inside of Alfie Mayer as Mayer slides wide. And Fabricius pretty much had to put the kart there. There was nowhere else for him to go, really. But now Alfie Mayer at the front from Fabricius, the top six, nose to tail. Logan Rolf up into fourth place. Schweier down into fifth. As they make their way round the Billy's Bend and then through the S's. And Fabricius close in once again on Alfie Mayer. And I think it's just the corner that's very, very wet that Fabricius has really taken some chunks out. Mayer looks to have a little bit of an edge throughout the rest of the lap, but through here Fabricius is closing up. See him there pulling away from the 50 of Sebastian Clark and closing back up on to the back of Alfie Mayer. Penalty applied for George Schweier in fifth place. So Schweier in P5 with a penalty. That'll be shown on the overhead gantry. It's shown on screen here as well in the commentary box, and you'll also find it at live.alphatiming.co.uk/BKC for all your live timing needs. As they run down towards the hairpin at the far end of the track, Schweier's going to draw alongside Logan Rolf and try and take a run round the outside, and we'll chop back to the inside. Will Logan Rolf, and Schweier can't get through. Top two beginning to pull away ever so slightly. Behind the top six, though, there's a great battle going on through here from Arthur Farrer pretty much all the way down to the tail end of the field. They're all still nose to tail as Logan Rolf goes wide. Alfie Mayer then with the fastest lap of the race, dragging Fabricius with him. As this is the battle I was talking about, where I said the rest of the field, as the 41 of Sorrien Gallagher gets a bit of a tank slapper on over the curb on the outside, and then going slowly all the way around the outside is the 24 of Arthur Farrer, who's slow and bogs down on the way out of the corner, and Farrer will drop 2 places down into P9. Gallagher through, Leo Livings through as well. Alfie Mayer leads then from James Fabricius, and the gap is out even further now. Another 0.4 of a second added to the time in the gap for Alfie Mayer, and now he's starting to open up that gap that we expected him to open up earlier on in this race. And now it's starting to come just at the right time for him as he moves away at the front from James Fabricius. You can just about see them in the distance as to whereabouts they are, but now Alfie Mayer is starting to open up that gap that's going to give him the comfort at the front. James Fabricius, though, just needs some solid points towards his championship standings, particularly because the championship leader coming into this race meeting, Leo Livings, is down in 8th place, not having the best of times in terms of points here then at Clay Pigeon. So James Fabricius just doing what he needs to do, particularly because behind him there's a battle going on that's going to stop them all closing in on the back. Sebastian Clark's going to be down into 5th place by the time they come out of this complex of corners. George Schweier is up, as is Logan Rolfe, but Schweier, we know there's a penalty incoming. He's just got to keep pushing forward and opening up the gap to Gallagher, Livings and the rest of them behind. Try and get to a point where he's 5 seconds clear, because the chances are the penalty will be 5 seconds. We don't know what it's for, but unless it's for something very, very serious, it's going to be for 5 seconds. So he just needs to keep pushing away. Through the field come. That's Fabricius already making his way through in 2nd place. The gap out to 1.6 from Alfie Mayer, but he doesn't really need to do anything more now. The gap to set in 2nd place is fairly comfortable for James Fabricius. It's going to be about as far as he's going to go this weekend. Alfie Mayer's been supreme at the front. And, the Micromax. Another fastest lap as well there from Alfie Mayer. Field makes their way through. Fraser Anderson's just got himself up in front of Sebastian Clark on the previous lap, up into 5th place. He's going to try and get alongside Logan Rolfe. And Anderson, who's taken the inside line rather than all the way around the outside, is finding that there is a lot more pace taking the traditional racing line down at the hairpin. He's closed right up there on Logan Rolfe. He was some half a second back as they ran into the hairpin. He's come out right on the back of the driver of the 32 in front of him. Mayer with another fastest at the front, opening up the gap to Fabricius. Fabricius in turn opens up a gap of a similar distance to George Schweier. Anderson once again going to take that tighter line. He's so far back though, coming through, and he's going to get one at least. Is he on Logan Rolfe? Rolfe's going to come back. The issue Anderson's got is round Billy's Bend and through the S's, he loses around about 4 kart lengths off the back of Logan Rolfe, gains them all down the inside into the hairpin, but then he's got a battle on to try and get back through. Needs to try and get this complex of corners right at the start of the lap into Billy's. Let's see whether he can stick with. He's already a little bit further back. I think he's geared slightly differently, because at the top end of the straight he's losing a bit to Logan Rolfe and George Schweier, but through the switchback sections in the middle of the lap, the driver of the 61, he's closing right up. There he is down the inside once again of Logan Rolfe, and this time he's going to try and sweep round the outside. Sebastian Clark's going to be there. Down the inside this time goes Anderson. Logan Rolfe really needs to be looking at this and thinking, well, Anderson's getting down the inside of me and he's closing right up every single lap. Maybe now is the time that I try that inside line as well, because in front of him he's got George Schweier who's taking a wider line, and Logan Rolfe now, if he was to take the inside line, could well be down the inside and up into 3rd place. Mayer though leads, another fastest lap out to 2.6 is the gap to James Fabricius. Will Logan Rolfe take that inside line this time? No, still out on the wide, and Anderson even can't take the tightest line onto the inside in the same way that he had earlier on. Through the right hand bend they come, heading up towards the final corner. Over the line, the top 2, we're pretty much going to forget about them because they are miles away in terms of this race with 1 minute and 1 lap to go. The battle is on for 3rd place. The train from 3rd down into 6th place, split by less than a second. Schweier, Rolfe, Anderson and Clark. As out pops Logan Rolfe, trying to find a way through. Fraser Anderson is now using the outside line behind the 2 in front. That's not closing him up. I think he had the right idea earlier on for Fraser Anderson. Clouds still looking very grey, despite the fact that we've got a little bit of sunshine above the circuit. In the distance, it is still looking very, very grey here. The Cadet Kart Championship, although looking at the direction where it is, the wind is coming across the track in the opposite direction, so it looks like it's blown them clouds well past us. Leaders will see the last lap board this time as Sebastian Clark draws alongside Fraser Anderson. Anderson's going to try and chop across, and then Clark's going to try and squeeze back through on the other side. Can't get it done. Anderson holds on in 5th place. Mayer leads then from Fabricius. The final lap commenced here in this final for Micromax. Anderson currently in P5. He's another driver that still has a chance of the championship. Leo Livings in P8. And they will head towards the final round. Livings will be handing over the championship lead to James Fabricius as it stands. When we add in all the dropped rounds. Alfie Mayer out of the final corner though. Will take the checkered flag here at Clay Pigeon to win the final at round number 5. James Fabricius takes 2nd place, and that should be enough to put him back to the top of the championship standings in front of George Swire, Logan Rolfe, Fraser Anderson and Sebastian Clark. Then it's Marley Fisher and Leo Livings, Arthur Farrer and Buddy Hugo rounding out the top 10 in Micromax here in front of Gallagher. Then it's Hushka, Fairclough, Herbertson, Gandhock, Weston and Dimolo crossing the line in P number 17 in Micromax.